Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Irn-Cru podcast, an NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers, and you are listening to and watching the News Crew. I am your host this evening, Brian, the conscience of Cleveland Donlan, and tonight we are going to be talking about all the latest news. Is the off-season far too long? The power of charity. And as always, we will have Dan's third and top 10 and our statistic of the week. Now, remember, you can get involved with the crew. Give us a like, a subscribe, a follow on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, all of the other social media places, folks. Get involved, reach out, send us a comment. Absolutely get stuck in. We would love to hear from each and every one of you. Now, this week, it's like an old Western. We've got the sheriff facing off against the chief. Which I'm just loving because I love a crap cinema reference. So if the old films are anything to go by, this is the good guy. But then again, who could ever actually say that the Cowboys are good guys? Welcome, Dan. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Glad to be here as usual. Looking forward to a good wee bit of chat tonight.
Absolutely. And evidently representing the bad guys, which, you know, I think kind of says more about how like racist early cinema was. But then again, we are talking about studs, and if there ever was a baddie, it absolutely is studs. So with that said, studs, how are you doing tonight, mate?
I can't believe you've actually just associated me with a bit of casual racism for the 70s. It's an introduction.
Start as you mean to continue, mate. Listen, until the Chiefs change their name along the Washington Commanders route, I'll keep sticking that knife in. How are you doing, mate?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Looking forward to having a wee chat with you boys tonight, and talk some football and all good things that's happening in the great world of the NFL right now, which really isn't much. Let's be honest.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's not kid anybody on at this point. I'll be honest. Actually, I found more things for us to talk about than I thought I was gonna. But like, we are scraping the barrel.
I was going to say it's the quality of the things we're going to talk about.
Exactly. I have found quantity. I make no assurances of quality. That's what we're here for. We make any quantity quality, gents. Right, with that said, as is tradition, we are going to get wired into our kick-off question. So it is the great NFL songbook. And this one goes out from Dan. Dan came up with this idea, so it's a cracker. So Dan was listening to, I'm going to assume it was Glastonbury you were listening to. Yeah. So we had Elton John, the final farewell of the forever Rocket Man, who's been with us for forever. His final ever... It's his final ever live show, isn't it?
No, his final ever UK
tour.
Aye, tour. Right,
okay. It was his final UK gig.
Right, okay. So that's his final ever UK gig. And as he was doing it, he graced us with Bernie and the Jets, which, of course, he was obviously dedicating to Aaron Rodgers. It's clearly the only reason he would be singing that song. So the question coming out to you guys is, which song do you think links best to your team? Either a song that gives your team a name drop, or a song that you just feel just summarizes your team as best as it can. Now, Studs, I'll let you take this one first, Dan. You can round us off with it, and I'll come in the middle.
I've actually got a few that I kind of want to drop in. I know Dad's got a few as well.
I got a good. Let's do it. Let's just rhyme them all.
Right, Mon. In about it. Give it
a one each. One at a time.
We'll do it like a tennis match. Go for it.
Back and forth. I didn't want to go too obvious, right? So if we're talking my own team first and foremost, then the obvious one is Queen, We Are the Champions, right? Too obvious. So
such a sword.
Listen, I'm not going to get down that route though, right? Just because they got their rings 2 weeks ago.
Now that you've mentioned it, you're not going to get in that route. You know, that's not how it works, mate. Aye.
But the one I was actually thinking, keep it quite, with the news that was going on, keep it quite, it's the word I'm looking for, relevant. The new, we've got Jamar Chase with his Pat Who comment. So right. I was thinking right now, probably Eminem, My Name Is.
I'll give you that. That's quite a good one, actually. I quite like that.
So I'll pass on to you, Dan, for your one.
Right, it back to him, mate.
I never went for Cowboy specific ones. I just went for general ones about the NFL.
I've got a Cowboy specific one for you coming. Don't worry.
Don't worry. Studs has always got your back, Dan. Don't you worry about it, mate.
So the first one, I'm surprised you never went with this one. The first one I thought was a bit of Kaiser Chiefs.
It could be any. Pick a song. Pick a Kaiser Chiefs tune. Right there in the name. Right there in the name.
Well, that's again. I don't know what I mentioned earlier on your chat. You've got the obvious one. You've got Kansas, the band.
Every song.
Just every song. Throw the whole playlist out there. But I missed the Kaiser Chiefs. I'll be honest. My head went straight to Kansas. But so.
But, 2 crackers out there.
Now,
Lunch Money Lewis. Bills is the name of the song he came out with.
Bills.
Right,
again, this is Chiefs Bengals related again.
Oh, here we go.
Went in there as well, but I've got a song, The Other Side by Alter Bridge for Orlando Brown Jr. since he's jumped over to the other side. Is where I was going with that.
No, this is higher quality than I expected it. You kids, I'm going to be honest. These links are not as atrocious as I feel.
Bit of research, mate. Bit of research.
You've obviously been sat with the old Spotify your year in history kind of thing, clicking back through the old favourites.
Yeah.
There you go, Dan. You got a top for him. You got another one up your sleeve.
U2 and Green Day, good combination there. Remember the Saints Are Coming.
Was
that to do with, did they do that to do with Katrina? Maybe was it some sort of thing? Hurricane Katrina, maybe. Well, I get mixed up with another song.
I could not tell you
because it is about New Orleans, so that's what made me think.
Yeah, you could always just keep on the Green Day training for. There's going to be 31 teams that will be walking down a boulevard of broken dreams come the end of the year.
Oh, wait, one for you. Wake me up when September comes for the season.
Oh, there you go. Oh, this is the kind of high quality podcast material that the proud viewers of the Gridiron Crew tune in for. How many tenuous song links can we get? Right, on you go, Stud, your champ with a bit. I can see you.
I was going to say, that's probably what Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, and Hopkins are all saying as well, because they'll be waiting in an injury before they get a team.
So someone in they might be waiting in more than just one injury.
So, right, this one I'm going to go team related now, right?
Right, here we go.
My team. I'm going to slate a fan base, and I'm going to give them probably eight extra settings in this song, and I'm going to go for the Buffalo Bills 21 settings due to that infamous Arrowhead implosion after 13 seconds. So they got a wee extra 8 seconds.
Wee extra 8 seconds out. Wee extra 8 seconds to keep them all going. We
all know what you can do with the 8 seconds, you know what I mean? So,
aye, best 8 seconds of somebody's day. There's got to be a couple of Bills Mafia links that we could make as well. There's got to be a good number of Mafia tunes that have came out of the past. Any jumps in mind.
One for the future.
Go for it.
Super Bowl 2026 is a big bit in the future when teams will be California dreaming.
Oh, there he is. I love to hear it. I just thought all the usual Rotten Browns ones, Brown Eyed Girl and all the rest of it. But I suppose the big one with us, and all the chat coming out of Cleveland, is how we are yet again winning the off season. So I suppose is it the worry is, are we going to be a case of the great pretenders?
Oh,
there you go. I thought I'd get in a dig at my own team before one of you swine did.
Bucks Fizz if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, we better, after they've lost their big QB battle on the go, are they making their mind up?
Yeah.
Right, okay, excellent, good work, Dan. That was a cracker of a question, and let's see, a legend. Oh, on you go.
I've got one there. I did promise you. I promised you, Dan. I did have one for the Cowboys, and I was keeping it to Scotland. I was thinking after he lost his voice, with obviously a wee bit of support for Lewis Capaldi, and I was thinking forget me for the Cowboys, purely due to their lack of Super Bowl appearances over the last decade or two.
See, the thing is, they never forgets about us. Everybody's talking about us.
I know.
It's because if every season, if we're correct, you are them boys.
Hey,
the curse of America's team.
I'm sorry.
It's going to be a hometown band from me, so
go for it.
The Steelers will. Could they sum up the Steelers season? They're going to be stuck in the middle.
No, hopefully they're stuck at the arse end of nowhere. Sorry, if I missed their open goal there, hopefully they'll be on a road to nowhere. I just hate the Steelers, and they're coming up later, and it makes me really sad.
Can we have a quick change of sport for music, and I give a couple of random stats for you here?
Oh, right, on you go, mate.
Remember Dario G? You know the
right.
90s dance tunes.
Yeah,
yes, right. Do you know how he got his name? Or they, as a band, got their name?
I do not.
So they're from Crew, and they're originally just called Dario, and they found out there was another artist called that, so they had to change their name, and they became Dario G because I don't know if you remember. Crew's legendary manager was Dario Grady.
Dario
Grady. They're now called Dario G after Dario Grady.
This is a kind of educational content that we bring to the NFL fan base
as well. We talked about the Kaiser Chiefs, yeah.
Right.
So do we know how Kaiser Chiefs got their names or their name?
I was going to assume it was something to do with the Kaiser.
So no, what it is Ricky Wilson is a massive Leeds fan. And Leeds, one of the legendary players, Lucas Radebe, if you remember him. And Leeds signed him from the Kaiser Chiefs.
Kaiser Chiefs in South Africa.
Right.
So named his band after the football team.
Fair enough. You can't. There's some great.
Educational as always.
Absolutely, it's the service we provide to the not just the nation but the entire world's NFL fan base. Right. Okay, gents, I feel we're well and truly loosened up after that one. So we are going to get going, and we are going to get stuck in with our main talking points of the show. So it is the depths of the darkest off season. We've got 72 days left of off season to contend with. So the big question is: the off season too long? So I sat and I did a wee bit of back of postcard maths on it. And I reckon the off-season runs for around about 30 weeks of the year. So we've got a 52-week year. We've got a 18-week season. You include a bye week. You get another 4 weeks for the playoffs. So that leaves you around about 30 weeks of the year made up off-season. Now, even putting aside the fact that we just all love football and we want there to be as much on as possible, and we appreciate one of the big things that we all love about this sport, it's a high-impact game. The players need time to rest and recover their bodies after a hard-fought season. It's 30 weeks kicking the back end of it a wee bit. Do we think they should try and extend the season to reduce that off-season? Dan, you can kick us off, mate. What do you say to
it? I think it's a tough one because, obviously, as you said, if teams that don't make the playoff, they get that extended break as such. I had a quick look at dates earlier on. So Super Bowl this year was on the 12th of February.
Mm-hmm.
And most OTAs started the last week. 14th.
Last week or the week before, yeah. Recently.
So the voluntary mini camps started at the end of May, at the end of March.
Mm-hmm.
Or end of May, sorry. So the gap between the Super Bowl and potentially mini camps OTAs starting is not that big. When you consider how much the players put themselves through. The issue, like you said, is a lot of team seasons are finishing early, so then they're not. So as much as your season finishes early, you don't play a game till September. There's a lot happens in that middle period where players are still doing stuff with the organisations in terms of training, mini camps, and then obviously training camps.
Does training camp runs for, I think it's 9 weeks. Yeah. Or it's 6 to 9 weeks. It's in that range, put it that way. Does it need to be that long? You get OTAs are different. Voluntary mini camps, that's for your rookies or the rest of it. So your big guns are out resting. And God love these young pups fresh out of college who've got legs to run for days. So we don't worry too much about them. Could we no squeeze a wee fortnight in?
I think the problem you've got is with all this stuff you've got with the draft and the rookies and all that sort of stuff, that then moves that back in the year. So suddenly you're like, well, they've got that programmed in for the start of the season. So when then that then knocks the season on, or I just don't see where you would. I mean, I would love to see more games, obviously, but the players aren't going to go for it. But yeah, it's a hard one to decide whether it's too long or not. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. What about yourself, Studs? Where do you land on this? Is this should we just want more football? Damn it! Just give the people what they want.
I think the problem you've got though, if you start saying about more football, is you get into the whole players union issues, and the players are already know they weren't happy about an extra game being added, and they've ended up with one less pre-season game, which they were happy about. So you've got that whole mess of what goes on in that side of things as well. So as Dan said, it'd be great to see another couple of games squeezed in there, but realistically, how much drama is
it going to cause?
The issues with the players.
I'm enjoying that you did just have your, as is now traditional, technological moment to yourself, and I'm just going to start filling in words for you. So see the frequency with which you are going in the middle of random sentences say, well, you see, one of the best things about Kansas City is how we love Baker Mayfield, and then we come back to it's going to be alarming how often you speak your adoration for the man.
We can have it as a new feature of what did Studs say next?
Oh, like spot the ball. We can do it like a spot the ball. Right, viewers, there's one that's going to come up at some point. We're going to run some form of competition with who can insert the best sentence into one of Studs' traditional gaps. I suppose it is the trick with this whole thing, that, as you say, it's one thing that we don't talk about a lot, actually, that's really good about the NFL is that the players are very well represented. The work that the Players Union does, all the work that goes on with the CBA and all the rest of it in the background is brilliant. It does make sure that the players are looked after for the most part. And I suppose it is so. Do we agree that this is a case of us fickle fans just being a wee bit selfish and we just want more?
Yeah,
and that exactly we're kind of given a lot already.
Yeah.
I think that's it at the end of the day. It's the fact that you're always going to want more, especially when it's at the height of its popularity. And I think the NFL's been growing massively over the last 10 to 15 years over here. So I think that is where the eagerness for more from our perspective is. Again, if you're a Chiefs fan or a Bengals fan or Cowboys, things like that, you're always going to probably sell out your stadium, especially right now when the teams are doing well. I don't think the Commanders are going to sell out their stadium, for example, when they're not doing so well. Do you know what I mean? So that's the kind of flip side of it. And then when they're putting money in their own pocket instead of sharing it out against the owners, then that opens up another can of worms as well. Sorry, allegedly.
Allegedly.
I think on this side of the pond, we're used to having a short off season for the soccer. I mean, all American sports have big off seasons and they're used to it. Whereas we're looking at the Scottish Cup final, 23rd of June.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And the season starts again the 3rd or 4th of August. So you have 8 weeks at the most off. If you're sports some of the other teams, you've got League Cup games starting middle of July. Do you know what I mean? So 6 weeks off.
Is this what we get to make like really controversial statements to say that just goes to prove that like soccer players are harder than NFL players? just goes to and just proves it, confirmed. It is a good point. Is maybe that bit of kind of transatlantic perspective, and that we've always had that where your closed season or your off season is a month, 2 months, and even then we've all been there with those years where we don't have a World Cup or we don't have a Euros going on, and all of a sudden you've got no football for soccer for a whopping 4 weeks. And you're devastated and you don't know what you'll do with yourself. Whereas the American side of it, they're obviously just a lot more used to those big pauses.
Yeah.
Now, with those pauses, it's not all players going off in holiday, spending their time doing jack all. Idle hands in this case are not doing the devil's work, because it's one thing that the NFL is very, very good for, is that they are good for having, as an organisation they do it, but they're very good for encouraging players and teams as organisations to support worthy causes. Now, this is something that we'll obviously get right into later in the season when we get to My Cause, My Cleats. But it's stuff that's going on all year, and these players are out in their local communities supporting some of these different charities. Now, I did have this fantastic charity begins at Homer line already, because I was going to lead you to talk about your own teams, but then Studs ruined it because he doesn't want to talk about the Chiefs. He wants to talk about somebody else. But the question to you, gentlemen, is can you tell me about a player for your own team or any team in the league that supports an initiative, a charity that it just rings true to you? It's just one that you really think there's a lot that's really brilliant going on there. Dan, why don't you kick me off, mate?
Yeah, I was going to talk about somebody else's player banks. They've just stole it, so I'll go back home. It's like, remember the old question of sport, home or away questions? This is definitely a home one. So I'm going to go with Dak Prescott. Yeah, I mean, as we know, a lot of players across the league have got their own foundations and do loads of things for across the charity. So Dak Prescott's one's called Faith, Fight, Finish. And the reason it's called that is it's 3 words that his mum put into him and his siblings about. That's 3 key words of encouragement to basically live your life by. So that's why he's called his foundation by that. So their key focus is a lot of investing in the future of youth. So looking after a lot of the youth that are coming through. He's done loads of mini camps for them, kind of wee pro camps. They had them last year and they had 3,000 kids turn up over at 3 camps. So different size of camps, but I think one of them they had 1,400 kids at this pro camp that he was running. I mean, just gives these kids a chance.
That's a lot of wins to wrangle.
As someone that deals them, you must deal with the saying.
I'm going to talk about the education link in a minute, but I can just say somebody that works in that field, folks. 1,400's a lot. That's just a lot.
Himself, to be fair.
Nah. I choose. My reality is that it's just Dak solo managing all these weights, having them all on go routes.
So another thing they do is they deal with people that are dealing with hardships in life as well, and they focus on that. He kind of deals with underprivileged communities and stuff like that. We focus a lot on helping people that are dealing with cancer as well. Their stuff seems to be about helping people that are fighting cancer. I don't know if I had never noticed this until I read about the foundation that every post-game presser that Dak attends, he's got one of his own ties on. So all the ties that he sells is called Dak ties, and for every tie that's sold, proceeds go towards a colon cancer charity. So he always wears one of his own ties after the game to raise awareness of the fact that he has these ties to raise money for cancer. And one other part of it as well is that they deal with a lot of mental health and suicide prevention, because I didn't realise, I hadn't actually read back on this, I knew his brother had died in April 2020 and it was suicide.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of focus on that, and they say that I don't have the exact stats, but the stats on young Black Americans that are committing suicide, partly the figures are through the roof. They're getting higher and higher every year. So they're trying to do a lot of work around that to prevent that happening.
Well, there was the touching moment with Hayden Hurst and Dak Prescott. I can't mind what game it was. But they met in the middle of the field.
What you're talking about.
I think they were mic'd up and talking away, because I think Hayden Hurst is...
he said something in his... I can't remember if it was his immediate family or if it was slightly more extended than Dak's, but yeah, he's equally experienced something.
I actually thought it was Hayden Hurst himself.
Is that Hurst himself? I'm maybe getting confused.
But it's definitely...
Check it now.
It was definitely something that was the two of them met in the middle of the field, and Hayden Hurst was...
You're absolutely right, Studs.
Because I remember seeing that video, and obviously you're hearing the two of them mic'd up talking about it and stuff, and Hurst has got nothing but admiration for his foundation and things like that for what Dak's doing.
So I've just looked it up actually to see what it was when we were talking there. So basically what it was that, of course, as Mr. Controversy himself, Skip Bayless had made comments about Dak opening up about his mental health. And Hayden Hurst came out and basically said to Dak he was supporting him. It was great that he managed to speak out and talk about his mental health, despite what the media was saying about it.
It's one of these things that is important, just bits like this, you know what I mean? Because you do get a lot of shock jocks, and I'm not going to draw attention to any of the people that do these things because I don't really think they deserve the oxygen. They cry things like this, and it's you're not a man if you're doing all this stuff, and you know what I mean, big boys don't cry and all that, and it's nonsense, and it is nonsense, and it's one of the things that there's, as you say, it's one of the leading causes of death in young men globally is suicide, and it's one of the things that everybody needs to remember, that there's always services there to help, even when you're in the darkest times, and be it things like with Dak having a colleague in Hayden Hurst approaching him and talking about his own very, very personal experiences of it, and just trying to give Dak that bit of support when he's a family member go through it. Or is it numerous charities that are out there that are there to help folk when they need them? And it is something that You know, I mean, if anybody's out there listening to it and they need to speak to people, the important thing's always to reach out and to make sure you speak to people. So that's brilliant. That's some fantastic initiatives that from Dak, and I'm sure that the Cowboys as an organisation will do huge amounts of work to help to support that. And that the presser with his ties is a really clever wee touch, and it's really fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't know about it until I started reading that there.
Yeah.
Might have to get myself a couple.
Aye, that's like
support.
That could be. Right, Studs, let's kick it over to yourself, mate. Now you've ruined my whole link here, so your story better be good.
Listen, I've kind of half kept the whole my story in for you. As I say, I didn't want to go down the kind of obvious routes for a total homer pick and go like the 15 in my homies and Kelsey's foundations and Justin Reed and things like that. I mean, what I find fascinating is the work that the teams do within the local community. I do think it is fantastic. But the one that's kind of caught my attention, probably more recently, is the Eagles Autism Foundation. So I've been listening to the Kelsey Brothers podcast and getting caught up with that over the past sort of 2 months and just absolutely hammering through it. And what they've been doing, I think it was actually either today or yesterday this happened, they had a beer bowl. And this is probably why it caught my attention, for the sheer fact that there was beer involved.
Know your audience, folks.
But they had a competition to get teams to come in, and it was like a kind of playoff competition, and there was going to be like £50,000 to the winning team and things like that. But it was all to raise awareness for the Eagles Autism Foundation, which then, after hearing that, kind of got me reading into what that specifically was. Obviously, I know it's in and around autism, but it's they've been running it for 6 years now, and they've raised in excess of 22 million to basically help fund research and provide facilities for the kind of local community. I was looking at their sensory room, which is in the stadium, which looks fantastic. And it's wee things like that, but it seems like they're constantly doing something to raise awareness for autism and try and raise additional funds for these doctors and obviously the parents and kids that are going through this as well. And it just seems like I think it's, for me, having worked with people with autism or been in school with people with autism, I think everybody at some stage has been in contact or had an experience of somebody that does have autism, and it obviously it goes in varying levels. There's very.
I'm actually. Oh, there we go. You're back, Stud. Sorry, mate. We lost a wee bit in the middle there.
So I was just saying, there's obviously very extreme cases and milder cases as well, and I think obviously with being able to help each kid, parent, whomever, manage and cope with that, I think is only going to be a good thing. So, and again, I think everybody's had that experience of somebody or been involved in an experience in life that's with somebody with autism.
Yeah, and again, it's brilliant work, and it's causes that are these aren't niche causes or anything. They're very well known, but it's great to see them getting support for organisations like this. Big ones with me. Shameless link or shameless plug is an educator myself. The Browns are really, really big on the links with schools. One of the big projects that the Browns as an organisation runs is called Stay in the Game. And the Stay in the Game programme is all about just trying to encourage the young people at schools kind of all around Cleveland to stay at school and to stay in school and to try and achieve the best that they can. And it's a big thing about, and they use, unsurprisingly, sport is their big way, very particularly tackling young people who are maybe disenfranchised with classrooms. They don't enjoy being in lessons and all the rest of it, but they can use sport to give these young people a window into some of the value that being at school can give them. And if they'll kind of stay for some of the different sports things that, when you've got people like Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett and all the rest of it coming down, it does create a buzz, and it does give these young people a reason to want to go to school, and hopefully they can obviously take that and it becomes more of a longer kind of love of learning and all the rest of it, which for me is obviously a total, that's my homer pick, and it's not even because it's the Browns, it's because it's about schools, it's about education. One of the other bits with the Browns that came out, and they're both, it's two kind of bits that are both associated with Myles Garrett, that I really liked, is he actually did work with, and I've lost the young person's name, did a lot of work with a specific young person, and it was all about sharing his, as in Myles, love of poetry. And it's just one of these things. It's really nice because you don't expect it. Particularly, I mean, what do you do from day to day? I chase exceptionally large men and hit them as hard as I physically can. Oh, okay. Hobbies, poetry. It's not what you would expect to come out, and it's the kind of thing that, again, showing this, I suppose, kind of very different sides of masculinity and stuff is really something I'm a big fan of. And the other bit with Myles is he is he's the leading one of the leading faces of NFL Waterboys. Now, NFL Waterboys is a charity that focuses on providing clean water. And it's both at home, as in the States, to some communities and families that require better access to water, and obviously overseas, where it's maybe much more of a well-promoted need. And there was a really good one. There was a charity basketball game back in 2019 that Garrett was a captain for one of the teams, and he had a bet with Shaquille O'Neal that basically meant that Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith both made pledges, with Charles Barkley pledging $1,000 for every point that Garrett could score, and Smith pledging $1,000 for every rebound that he could get during the game. And I think by the time he finished it, he had 13 points, 8 rebounds, and a couple of dunks. So, just things like that. And it just generates that money for these good causes. And it really shows a lot of the stuff that the league wants to put forward of itself. It really is the league putting its best foot forward, showing the work it does in all of these communities. Which is brilliant. And it's the stuff that we all love to see beyond the, very large angry men hitting each other.
You did forget to mention the fact that Myles Garrett hits large angry men with helmets.
Well, that's only because they deserve it. Only because they deserve it. Listen, you. We're only like 4 days away. We're not that long away for the something with the whatever for month anniversary of that helmet to helmet hitting the playoffs, and don't make me bring it up again.
On the other side, I think the NFL using players to kind of promote certain things as well, I think it's fantastic. Like the Dolphins using Tyreek Hill for to avoid violence is quite an interesting one.
Listen. Every reform is always possible. people can change. I think that's the best we can. Allegedly, from alleged things that the court system deems it's unfit to pursue.
Can I just go back to Cowboys for a second, guys? I've just got some stats. So I was looking at the Cowboys are big with the Salvation Army. We obviously get the red kettles at the end zones and stuff like that. So I was just reading there. The year that Elliott jumped in it and got fined for it, the Salvation Army received $850,000 in donations directly after it.
Did he not? Now, this I could be wrong, and I could be totally making this up. Did he not donate he paid his fine, and did he not then donate the same amount of his fine to the Salvation Army?
Yep.
Oh, that was a really good touch. I also thought it was a bit.
I just read there that the Cowboys and the Salvation Army started teaming up in 1997, and since then, all the different campaigns have reached $3 billion.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's crazy sums of money. It does show you, but and it's the power of sport, and it's the power of the NFL as an organisation and all the rest of it, and what it can really do for these causes. You know what I mean? Sport's a fantastic thing for the pure entertainment. It's why we love it and all the rest of it. But the power it can really have it sounds so cheesy, to change lives and to really affect positive change is massive. Because at the end of the day, these are multi-billion-dollar industries that, there's a lot of people getting filthy rich, and we can debate the virtues of that another day. There is still a lot of money going to good causes, which is, you can't ever really say that that's a bad thing. Right. Okay, gents, that was good. We're going to shift on, bringing it back to Europe, and we're not going to go too hard on this because we've been trying to talk about how we get Mary an NFL team in Europe for about a month now. But we did just have, the NFL is having their first ever game in Germany. Their first game in a long time anyway, in Germany, and it's Now, it's sold out. So Frankfurt Stadium, we went and we Googled it. It is 51,500. That is the capacity of the stadium. Now, me and Dan were talking about this before we went on air. Now, we are going to be generous and we are going to say 40,000 of those tickets was available to your Joe Blogs in the public buying it. And I think we're being nice about that. I think more than just over 10k of those were going to corporate. Anyway, now, me and Dan talked about it. Studs, do you know how long it took all of the tickets to sell out? Have you seen the time?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Now, the biggest belter, have you seen how many folk at certain one? But it's the biggest number I've seen. And gentlemen, feel free to tell me if you've seen a bigger one. At its peak, the biggest number I've seen.
That's an old question.
It's all right, I'll close it off. Was it the biggest number for the queue? 1.8 million people waiting to try and get a sniff at to be and being nice. 40,000 tickets. You figured it out earlier, Dan. What was that? What was your percentage chance?
Yeah, if you're in that queue, you had a 2.2% chance of getting a ticket.
Don't get me wrong. You don't buy a ticket. You don't buy a very literal ticket. You don't have a chance at all. But 2.2%. So, gents, I suppose the question is here: is that as clear a signal as the NFL could ever ask for? That one, they are wanted in Europe, and two, they really need to funnel a bit more love to the continent. What do we think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm going to quickly correct you, Brian. It was a game in Munich last year, so it's not been that long. A game in Germany.
That's why I laugh.
Right, leave me alone. Right. Okay. Do you know what? Listeners? Do you know what, viewers? Neither of they two have got a 7-week-old baby to contend with. So I am going to say that me making a minor faux pas, a fox's paw, if you will, over when they were last in Germany is forgivable. Right, it's new in Germany. Do you know what? Pairings, rat bags. It makes my point even better. It's not even shiny new. It's been here for a year, and there's still nearly 2 million folk in the queue, and it's still sold out in 15 minutes. So take your witty observations and ram it.
I mean, if you think back to NFL Europe days, German crowds were always huge. I mean, you get back to the mid to late 90s, you were getting 30,000, 40,000 at NFL Europe games. I think Gav mentioned it last week in chat, the European League. I think was it Rhein against Hamburg or whatever it was, which two of the German teams, 35,000 people at a European League game. Yeah. So, I mean, Germany's always been massive on it, and obviously they went big on London first. But if you start seeing these numbers, I'm going to have to seriously look at either expanding the series, the international series, or shifting games away from London to Germany.
Well, Germany... there's a question to consider then, actually. So kick this one to yourself, Studs. Is the success of the German games a threat to the London games?
No, I don't think so. And I think the reason for that is you've seen the NFL had given specific teams areas for marketing. So I think you had the Chiefs, the Bucks, and the Bears? I can't remember who the third team is in Germany, but there was like 3 teams in Germany, so many teams in London, so many teams in Central in another part of Europe. So I don't think it's a threat to London. I think it's an example of where the NFL wants to go. So I think you'll maybe see another European city brought on board after maybe a couple of years in Germany. So you'll have your London games, you'll have your Germany games, and you'll have your, Paris games.
I would punt Poland. I'm basically purely the Poles are mad for the NFL. There's not a really, really big market out there.
I thought you were thinking for a cheap beer.
Well, listen. There are many benefits to my random thoughts, guys. Many benefits. But if they're going to chase the market, they know they've got an established market in the UK. The German market is an open goal for the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Germany's been the NFL daft for a long time. I was certain that Poland was the same. I don't know if there are any other hotbeds of it in Europe. The thing I suppose it's worth remembering is that in terms of size, you know what I mean, the USA is bigger than Europe. In terms of scale for moving teams around and all the rest of it, it's not what you would turn around and say, oh, if you're in Poland and your away games in Paris that's the travelling. You're like, aye, well, have you ever thought of, the Jets having to travel to the Niners?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just merry a journey. But aye, so it is. Oh, I don't know. I think there's going to be an expansion at some point. I think Europe's the next expansion. I think that's how it's going to fall.
We've done this to death.
I know. Moving on.
We've been there.
News. I'm just going to. This is just going to turn into me staring wistfully into the middle distance, hoping. Right, on to the news of the week, gentlemen. So now, obviously, on to slightly more somber news. It started off. Obviously, we're all aware of the kind of tragic passing of Ryan Mallett. So for anybody that's maybe not aware, Mallett was for Arkansas. He was a 2011 third-round pick by the Pats. He was a quarterback. He backed up Tom Brady for a couple of years before he played both in Houston and in Baltimore. And he retired in 2017. And obviously, he's tragically died in a drowning incident in the coastal town of Destin in Florida. And it's, as it always is with these things, it's just some really sad news. A man that's, cut down in his prime, as much, he's retired and all the rest of it, immediately makes you think an older guy. But we are talking about a sportsman here, an athlete. So, he is retiring a lot younger. So, yeah, tragic news and thoughts and all the rest of it obviously go out to him, to his family, and all the rest, and everybody that was affected by it. So it's one that's very sad.
He's also a high school coach in Arkansas as well now,
Yeah,
so he was actually giving back to his community and sharing that knowledge with the younger generation. So, sad news indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, not as sad news, but serious news nonetheless. Leonard Fournette, he had a what looks like a very narrow escape. He had posted up on his Instagram pictures of his SUV, more or less immediately after it had just been extinguished from being in fire. This is one of these stories we actually don't have. I don't know if you gents has. I've certainly not been able to find much in the way of detail around this one. He put out a post on his Instagram, which I'll be honest, it did give me a chuckle, is that he did capture it with, "Man, it's been one of those days." Now, Lenny, I've had some pretty honking days. I'm not sure I've ever had a day that my motor's been in fire. But it certainly qualifies as one of those days. But thankfully everybody was all right. Nobody was hurt. God knows what's actually happened there, but
it looked well like the Chiefs D-line that he ran into in the Super Bowl when he was playing for the Bucks, to be fair.
Wah, wah, wah.
Listen, having a wee dig at my team because we were honking that day.
Right.
Watching the video, it looks like it's maybe just been some sort of electrical fire. It's just the front end of it. It's all melted inside it. But it's obviously. It's probably thinking to himself, I've not got a team. I can't afford to buy another one.
It's an insurance job. Is that what we're saying? Insurance number.
But apparently it happened whilst he was driving, so he was actually driving the car at a time when it started to go on fire. I'm not going to lie, I would
scary as fuck. I'd be new trousers.
Aye, it wouldn't be a new motor, I'd be new drawers.
Never mind the fact that the flames never reached the interior, that driver's seat's going to need replacing. I don't care the extent of the damage. That upholstery's non-recoverable. To be fair, it'll be Lenny, but he'll have leather, it'll be wiped clean. Right, another one that we are going to deal with quickly because you boys discussed it at length last week. The Dalvin Cook situation rumbles on. He apparently is, the Finns have apparently offered him a contract amongst, and I love how the league does this, amongst other teams who are all nameless. But the Finns are apparently named. They are 100% interested in him. The one question that I had off the back of this for these gentlemen was a wee bit of news that was just kind of pushed out today was, now I'm going to murder the pronunciation of this boy's surname, Achane, the rookie running back that the Jets have drafted. He has been impressing a lot. Lots of reports coming out from Miami saying how good he's been, not just in the running game, but how good he's been doing in the passing game as well. And he really looks like he's the deal. And one of the big things about him that came out of him for college was his speed. And it really, really looks like he is the business. Do you guys think that if this boy looks like he really is it, maybe pours a wee bit of cold water on what Cooks can expect to get from Miami? Do they temper their interest, knowing what they maybe have now in this rookie they're starting to see more and more? Or is the guy still a rookie and now we want the proven commodity? What do we think? Dan, kick us off, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it, and I'm going to relate it back to Cowboys as always. You need that you need that power back and you need the speed. I mean, that's what I said last week. I love it at Cowboys because we've got Pollard and Vaughan for speed, and you take Cook as your hard hitting guys.
Slugger.
The Dolphins have offered them a contract. What that involved in terms of figures, I haven't seen yet. I don't know if anything's come out in the last hour or so. Nah. But they have offered them a contract, so they obviously are still interested despite what's happening. And unless you're getting a top end running back, are you going to hinge your season on a rookie? I would say not.
Well, Bijan?
I mean, unless you've got a top 10, top 40 pick running back, I don't think you're going to take a chance on it, especially with Miami of what they've built around their offense. They're going to want a top end running back, and I think as much as this rookie's impressing, they'll still want somebody like Cooks there, even just to bring him on, teach him, give him the experience. I think you want both. Right,
do you know what, Studs, I'll kick it to you this way, mate, because you can certainly speak about it this way for experience. Do you need a good running game? Because you're sat there, Chiefs fan, and I don't think it's unfair to say that the Chiefs running game is very much not the focus of their offense. You guys mentioned it last week. We are in a passing league these days, and you look at the weapons that the Dolphins are putting around Tua. Now, yep, we have got the massive question mark around Tua's health and all the rest of it. That is what it is. Nobody can crystal ball that one and project how much Tua is going to play next year. But do they? Does Miami need this power back to come in and take some of that weight off, or can they just lean on Tua, his arm, and then use the various pieces that they've got in the running back room to do what needs done, very much like what the Chiefs do? I've timed that beautifully for Studs having a wee moment where his screen freezes.
No.
Just as there he's there. Right, he's back with me. So what do you think, Studs? Do the Finns need it, or can they follow in Kansas's mould?
For me, they absolutely need it. Purely for the one reason you mentioned right there, in Tua's health. If you're asking Tua to step back, drop back, and play passes, that means that the defensive line can pin their ears back and just go for him, and he's going to take more hits. If you can threaten a team with a good running game, then it makes the defence think what you're thinking about and what you're going to do. You've got to remember, Mike McDaniels comes from the Shanahan offense in the 49ers, where they rattled through running backs like sweets. In fact, they rattled through...
At a rate. They rattled through quarterbacks at a similar rate, to be fair.
Aye. They were running through quarterbacks like Bertie Vogts was giving out Scotland caps.
There we are, ladies and gentlemen. That is what you call a niche reference.
So, for me, again, I think you look at it and I would say they absolutely need Cook. I think Cook's been playing the game, though, quite well because I think he's been liking a few New York Jets posts recently to kind of... I suppose it's in the same division, but it keeps his market open as well, and then starts a bid more in the division, which only does.
Absolutely, 100%. Right, okay, gents. Moving on. One of the other big bits of the news. Now, this is something. I'll be honest. I didn't know that this wasn't an official thing, but the NFL and the BAFA, the British American Football Association, have announced a strategic partnership. So, short version, what they've done is they're trying to get a lot more flag football into schools around the UK. And they're trying, by doing this, the NFL are trying to offer support with training for coaches, for teachers, for all of these kind of people that work in schools to try and spread the sport. They're obviously focusing in on flag football because when you try and ask 13-year-olds to run into each other really hard and hit each other, apparently that's not okay. And apparently that can get your registration removed. Who knew? So what do we think? Does this sound like the kind of thing that we've been talking at length about how the game is growing in the UK in terms of fans? Is this the kind of thing that we need to see to potentially increase the amount of UK-based talent that we start seeing potentially making its way into the league? What do you think, Dan?
I mean, as someone who has played flag football at 2 stages throughout my life, I'm a massive...
This is why I came to you first, mate. It's why I came to you first.
So I'll play flag football. I'll absolutely loved it. And the more kids you can get in it, the better. As you say, going back to you thought it was already a thing. I think up until recently, Bafa had been a bit of a dumpster fire in terms of organisation and who run them and stuff. I think NFL, we're not getting involved with them because we're not a very well run organisation through my experience and through various different interactions in American football in the UK at different stages. So obviously they've got their act together in the NFL and now came on board with them. I was looking at some stats just before we come on. So at the moment, there's 470 schools throughout the UK that have flag football in their curriculum, which is 28,000 kids across 26 regions, which is great. I mean, I remember being at school, obviously a long time ago, and you played softball. I mean, and
I will not hear rounders besmirched.
I mean, but I'm going to sound really stupid here, yes, but it was just for fun. You hit a ball and you ran about. I mean, at least flag football, I think, will teach more to the kids in terms of teamwork and all those sort of things and discipline and stuff like that than a game of rounders will. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's good in a way in terms of a sport because it's interesting. It's fun as well. Sport for kids has got to be fun. You can't have boring sports for kids at schools. They're just going to lose interest. So I think flag football is a fun game to play as well. It's fast as well. You're no hanging about. You're constantly on the go, which is good also for fitness, but also for keeping interest as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea. I'd love to see it more up here. I mean, Brian, kicking back to you, is there much of it up here in schools?
Do you know, I'm gonna shamelessly duck this, and I'm gonna kick it to Studs purely because I know that Studs is, and this is where he can correct me, because I know that previously one of Studs' boys was actually involved, and I'm going to assume it was flag football that the wee man was involved in, given his age. Full contact's probably a bit much. I'll be honest, up where I am, so up in the northeast, precious little, if anything, that I've seen. And that's kind of par for the course with a lot of things. That's a whole other debate about how Scotland spreads its resources that we can argue about in another podcast. But Studs, to give it to you, you've got, is it for the parents' side yet? You know, some real experience helping to try and support somebody to get into the game. What's your experience been of it?
For me, I'm totally on board with what Dan says. See, the more exposure we can get to it, the better. And I think you've actually seen... I've actually seen this coming purely because the last 2 years, the NFL have actually had a team come over and run a flag football session. Last year, it was the Bears at Tory Glen. I think this year, it's the Jags.
Oh, he's had a moment again, folks. It was about the Jags. There he is.
It was about the Jags.
Oh, is it again?
God. Right. Just keep your eyes on the
Jags season.
I know.
Scathing. Right, about the Jags, mate. On you go.
Sorry. The Jags are actually doing a flag football session at Oriam in Edinburgh. I believe it is this year. And so I think you're going to see more and more of that with these links where you're going to get an NFL team coming over. And I think Josh Allen's actually going to come over for it from the Jags as well.
Class.
So, and the kids are going to get a chance to meet him. And I may be remembering this wrong, but I've got a funny feeling Jackson DeVille might be there as well.
Oh, hell's your drop. I'll get it. I'll get him through it.
Off the roof of Oriam like he does at Wembley.
Well, that's.
I'm not certain Jackson DeVille's. I'm not certain Jackson DeVille's school appropriate, but still, get him in there.
Depends what outfit.
Depends how they dress him. Right, okay, gents, we are going to draw the news to a close, and I am going to not maybe so much one-word answers, but brief answers to this because I'll be honest, I really want to go into Dan's third and 10. So. The Derek Carr has made a wee announcement recently. So Derek Carr's obviously freshly minted member of the New Orleans Saints, and he is happy to be somewhere where we are in a stable organisation that's been proven for years. Now, this is where I'm just going to step in before either of you two do and say the next person that says Browns being Browns gets booted off the pod. Does organisation matter is the question. You know what I mean? I look at it, and I hate to give them any credit, but I look at like the Steelers, who organisationally are just very well done. How big a deal do we think it is that Derek Carr has went from a less functional organisation in the Raiders, let's say, to one that has certainly been a lot more stable in New Orleans? Studs, on you go. You can have your dig at the Raiders. How big a deal do you think it is?
I'm just amazed that he was trying to suggest the Raiders are a stable organisation because they've been a tyre fire for years as well, to be fair.
To be fair, he tried to be nice to the Raiders with like the second part. It was like a kind of, the classic shit sandwich. He said something, great, New Orleans are amazing, the Raiders are crap, but I really liked my time in Vegas, but they were still really crap and I'm glad I left.
I think organisation absolutely matters, and I think you see that Packers, for example. Fuck.
Yes.
So you look at the Packers, they've had Brett Favre, they've had Aaron Rodgers, so they've not had to change their quarterback for the last 20
8,000 years.
Do you know what I mean? And they've been relatively successful. They've won a couple of Super Bowls. They've been perennial playoffs. They've won. Well, they basically own the Chicago Bears. They've won however many NFC divisions. Do you know what I mean? So even though Jordan Love tried to say that Bears fans were his dad in his recent post, but that's another story.
I think Jordan Love's just not allowed on social media anymore.
No. So, but for me, absolutely, organisation matters. If you've got a well-run organisation, that starts to flow through the team. And
right, Studs has yet another technological collapse. Right, Dan, I'm going to kick it to you. I'm going to reframe it a wee bit. Can a good organisation make up for a lack of talent?
No. I think so. Just a quick point on what Studs was saying there.
Yeah,
having a great organisation that works and helps you. On the flip side, look at someone like Washington, an absolute dumpster fire of an organisation, and nothing works. In terms of the players don't want to be there, people don't want to play for them, so you need to have that good organisation. But yeah, no, you need to have the organisation. You can't have anything. Nothing else works if you've not got people. Players want to play there. That's what you need. You need players that want to play for the people that are there. I mean, for your head coach, your GM, all those people, you want players that want to play for these people. If you don't want to be there, you're not going to perform at your best. You're not going to be happy. So no, I think you need to have both. You need to have the talent and you need to have the organisation. A good organisation is not going to win your Super Bowl, but they could be the best organisation in the world. You still need the players to play for you. You still need to have the talent as well. So you need that balance of both. I think, this is going to be a bit disparaging to it. If you look back to a team like the Ravens that won the Super Bowl a good few years back, I've completely forgot the quarterback's name.
I don't talk about AFC North teams that win Super Bowls. As far as I'm concerned,
that
trophy.
No,
it was
back again. Who was the quarterback when they won it? I mean, obviously the team was an average team that won it. It wasn't a great team that won it. But obviously they all wanted to play for the team.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to play for the organisation. So that kind of shows you where it can work. If you've got the good balance, you don't have to have the best talent. If you've got good talent, you've got a good organisation and good coaches, then it can work.
It's the one, and it's where I hate to give them any credit, but I'm obliged to. It is the one where you look at the Steelers. The Steelers, they come above 500 every single year, which is a huge testament to Mike Tomlin. The man doesn't know how to go sub 500. But they do that with the talent they have, regardless of how good, bad, or indifferent it is. I don't think many Steelers fans out there would object if I said that the current Steelers rosters are the poorest that they've had in quite some time. Even if we're looking at the last two and a bit seasons with Big Ben, he was a shadow of the quarterback he used to be. A couple of seasons with Kenny. Who knows? He might come good. I don't see it personally, but then again, I'm a Browns fan, so I'm not meant to see it. But the organisation is just really well run, and it might not get them to a Super Bowl. It keeps them in the playoff conversation. Now the thing that then knackers them is has been talked about a lot, is that the AFC is just stupid strong. So you're never going to get tremendously far in that bracket, but it keeps you in the conversation. Right, okay, folks.
I've got his name. Trent Dilfer.
There you go. There was no way I was ever getting that. Right, so tell you what, going from one thing that there's maybe I was ever going to get straight into another thing that I am doubtless going to fail miserably at. It is that time again, ladies and gents. It is one of our staple segments. It is Dan's turn to torture both myself and Studs and to make us feel horrendously inadequate. It is that time for Dan's third and top 10. What have you got for us this week, mate?
It seems a very easy topic, right? Like a wee bit, maybe a few curveballs in here. So what we're going to go on is in the answers to this are regular season games only.
Right.
Top 10 NFL players' appearances. Who has played the most regular season games in their career?
Tom Brady.
It's Tom Brady. Yeah.
Tom Brady. Where do you think he is in the list?
Top 3.
Studs?
Go top 5. I'll squeeze it out a wee bit.
Number 5, 335 games.
Right.
Right. Drew Brees.
Aye, there's
No.
one.
Not the
No.
top 10.
Right.
Just
Justin
outside,
Tucker.
actually.
Justin Tucker.
The big ball.
Fluffer.
Fluffer.
Nope.
Family friendly show. He in it?
Nope.
Oh, what? All right. Peterson. Adrian Peterson.
Nope.
What?
Goa.
Aye, thank God he's 5,000 years old.
No.
What?
Right, I'll give you a wee bit of clue because this is going to get hard, right? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players that play the same position that is not quarterback, running back, wide receiver.
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice, number 9.
So I know you said wide receiver, but I just
He is the only wide receiver in the top 10.
Right. Joe Montana.
Nope.
No, he's no. I was going Gronk. I'm going to say Gronk. I think that's wrong though. Nah. Gronk he was out for a lot.
A lot of these players. So only one of these players was not. So everyone apart from one played at least a game in 2004. So not all going necessarily back a long time. There's one really old one you'll no get.
Right.
But
how many of them are linemen? How many of them play on a line?
Right.
None. Right. Okay.
Really?
Otherwise, so there's 6 kickers.
Right.
Vinatieri.
Yes. Vinatieri.
Number 2.
Seabass.
No.
Greg the Leg.
I forgot his name now. Jan Kalofsky or something like that.
Oh, Raiders kicker? No.
Greg the Leg.
No.
Really? Jesus. I'm still shocked Tucker's not in there, particularly talking kickers. Stu is currently sat listening to this, screaming, naming them all, their date of birth, their inside leg measurement, their furthest ever kick.
Is Ray Lewis one of the ones? I know he's not a kicker, but
no. So you've got 6 kickers, a punter, 2 quarterbacks.
Graham Goodall.
No.
Nah.
Just think of kickers that were in the league forever.
We did. Justin Tucker.
Crosby.
Even that, he's not been in that long compared to some of these guys.
Oh, who's the 49ers boy? Robbie Gould.
Nope.
We
have to start telling his answers here.
You're good at it.
Right, there's another quarterback. We've already mentioned him actually recently. So he was in the league for 19 years.
Ben Roethlisberger.
No.
No. No, Big Ben actually wasn't in the league that long. When did he retire? Say it again.
2010.
2010. Jesus.
Peyton Manning.
Nope.
No, he wasn't.
No,
you've absolutely. Look at him. He sat there thinking to himself, "Oh, this was an easy one, guys. This one was dead straightforward."
Especially when I told you the positions.
It's kickers and punters. Didn't you think we know? You have picked it up, Nick, for this question.
We'll give you the rundown.
Give us the rundown, mate.
Right,
Number 10, Brett Favre.
Right, we shall go Favre.
302. Joint with John Carney, who was a kicker for the Chargers between 1990 and 2000. Jerry Rice was number 9. Phil Dawson.
Nah.
Browns kicker.
For when?
He played for the Browns, the 49ers, the Cardinals between 99 and 2018.
That's it. I now feel bad, actually. I feel I should have got that one now. I was waiting for you to say he stopped playing for the Browns in the 90s, and I was like, well.
I had heard of Phil Dawson. I now heard the next one is Jason Hansen, who was the Lions kicker between 1992 and 2012.
It's the length of that career, though, man. That is a long time.
Dawson was the Cardinals kicker most recently, I think.
That's where he was until he retired. Number 6 you got was Tom Brady. The guy I'd never heard of, was George Blanda. He played 1949 to 1975, so didn't expect you to get that.
There you go.
Number 4 is punter, Jeff Fiegels.
Right, I have heard of Fiegels. Where's Fiegels play?
Something makes me, I can't remember. Something makes me want to say the Colts. I don't know.
Yeah, I do recognise that name at least.
Number 3, Gary Anderson was number 3 kicker for the Steelers between 82 and 94, and kicked about a few other teams. And number 1, and surely he's a fan of this guy, Morton Anderson.
No, I'm drawing a blank.
Played 12 years at the Falcons, 12 years at the Saints. He was a Saints kicker between 82 and 94, and then he kicked about. Played 5 years at the Falcons with 382 appearances.
Jesus, that's many an appearance. Well, ladies and gents, I feel that this segment has delivered and everything that it was meant to deliver, and that it made me and Studs look like we have no idea what we're talking about, and made us both feel stupid.
Next week.
Right, okay. Dan's on double duty this week, actually. Dan is selflessly put himself forward not only to do his third and top 10, but he has also volunteered to give us our statistic of the week. So after taking a right dig at my beloved Browns, I'm expecting something kinder, Dan. So what have you got for us, mate?
This week, I took it. Well, the Browns didn't make that dig at themselves. Do you know what I mean? I can't even change stats. Stats are stats. I mean, but to be fair, on the end of the doing this week is going to be Studs and his Chiefs.
Yes.
So in 2014, the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers did not score a single touchdown. In the whole season, they never scored a single touchdown. So you had Dwayne Bowe, Albert Wilson, and Donnie Avery as the 3 receivers. Not a single touchdown. Not even a rushing touchdown between them. The highest scoring receiving touchdowns were Kelsey and Jamal Charles with 5 each. The closest they got, and I think this is heartbreaking to be fair, is that Dwayne Bowe fumbled on the half-yard line.
I've seen that play.
I think they were awarded a touchdown, and I think they went to TV replay and they pulled it back on the half-yard line.
Studs, you're saying you've seen that play? That boy wakes up seeing that play every single night. At 3 a.m, cold sweat, seeing a half-yard line.
Despite this, they still finished 9-7 that year without a receiver scoring a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it was on the receivers or whether it was on the fact that Alex Smith was a quarterback that season.
Better both.
Statistic of the week.
Well, we'll say though, when you look at all these things, I take severe exception to not just calling Kelsey a receiver. See, it's quite clearly a wide receiver masquerading as a tight end.
Hey, listen, George Kittle was showing him how to block apparently at tight end you this week. That's like just skiing Thanos Infinity Gauntlet.
I'm sure Kelsey was dead keen to get lessons for another tight end in the league. I'm sure he was desperate to listen to what they had to teach him.
I'm sure he was. Big Gronk was there as well. Can only be a good thing.
It's big. No, that's fine. That means it wasn't actually a work weekend. That was a party. There's no way Gronk was there to do any work.
That's one of the ones where you go away for a work do. You work for an hour and then go to the pub.
You work for an hour. Then the boss says that he's left his card behind the bar. You know, well, in that case,
apparently Njoku didn't want to go.
Big Chief.
Nah, well, I don't know if he was there or not, to be fair.
I'd find it. He needs to put a big year up this year, actually. He's in a sugary peg, Big Chief.
Catching the ball because he can't even right throw to him.
Well, wait and see. Right, this is our chat for another day, ladies and gents. We are drawing towards, just as everybody starts to get stuck into the Browns, our move is on to the close. No tactics involved there at all, ladies and gents. Right, okay, so with that, unfortunately, time as always is the enemy. So thank you very much, everybody. Now, remember, the off-season is still got a wee while to go, unfortunately, but remember, the crew is going to be here for you the whole way through, folks. We'll be joined, obviously, next week by our news crew to talk about any new happenings that we have. Who knows? Dalvin Cook might finally actually sign a contract, or he might just tease us till the end of the off-season. But remember, we will get you through the rest. You can follow us on Twitter at Irn-Cru. You can find us on Instagram at grid_iron_crew. And you can find us on all the other socials just by sticking Gridiron Crew in, folks. Please help grow the community. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Dan, thank you very much, mate. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure as always. I'm going to do some research for an easy top 10 next week.
Go with something like name 10 teams in the AFC. And Studs, as always, mate, an absolute pleasure to chat ball with you for an evening.
You too, boys. Listen, have a great weekend and we'll no doubt catch up soon.
Absolutely. So till next week, folks, as we like to say around here, the crew will get you through, and that is us for this week. Good night.